Hello and thanks for joining us. My name's Ian Stroud.
And my name is David Malone. And this is Hyperland.
Hello, David. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How about you?
I'm suitably relaxed, I think. I think that's the
Well,
term.
that's because you've been away.
Yeah, but then it's taken me about 2 weeks to recover from being away.
Excellent.
I need another rest.
So what do you fancy talking about then?
Talking of going away, I did what most people did, and I tried to collect some books together to read on the beach, except I wasn't going to a beach, but I just sort of thought, there's a lot of travelling, and I can do a lot of reading.
All right, yeah, I like that. Let's talk about a few books.
Well, there was one there were two. Well, one you recommended, which was the one by Nurse.
Oh, Paul Nurse.
Paul Nurse.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
What did you think of it?
I read probably the first quarter of that.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. It was just one of those, wow. And well, he's a Nobel.
Oh, he's a bigwig, yeah.
Yeah, big thoughts, and really enjoyed it. But the other book I took with me was after our consciousness podcast.
All right. Which one did you read?
Tanya's.
Oh, Tanya Lerman.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you think? Because hers is really unusual.
Yeah, I kind of read the beginning and thought, this is quite an interesting way, because she turns a lot of ideas on their heads and approaches them in a completely different way.
That's exactly it.
And then I stopped.
The beach called. But I agree about Tanya Lerman. I mean, did you like that bit where it's the central point of the book. She puts it so clearly at the beginning that everyone looks at religion this way. But it's such a lovely point, isn't it?
Yeah.
That she says everyone just starts saying, "Oh well, religious people, they're strange people. They just find it so easy to believe in God and the spirits."
Yeah.
And then she says that's where academics start. And then the academic second point is, and this is obviously a cognitive mistake. So we're going to study how people can make such a cognitive error. And she says, it doesn't work. You don't ever get to say anything interesting. And she also then says, doesn't she, that she done all this. I mean, a good 2/3 of the book is her talking about all of the work that she did. What was it? Witches in London in the 70s or something. Well, I hadn't met many witches in London.
No, I don't think I'd reached that part.
And you're all right. Oh, that's quite good. Yeah. And her point was just, I loved it, that she says, look, actually, when I've done 30 years of work with these people, they don't find it easy.
Yeah.
They're perfectly well aware that it's easy for them to say, let me show you that my car is blue, because they can take you outside and show it to you.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas they know that saying, well, I believe in God is difficult, and they find it difficult.
Yes.
But that it's all the actions they take to make God real for themselves.
It was the rituals that are involved in the religion that then help to make.
That's what makes God real for them, and it's that effort of making God real which transforms it. I thought it was such a brilliant.
Don't hit the mic, mate.
Sorry, mate. Keep your hands in my pockets.
But no, I'm really delighted that I did a bit of research myself. I thought, I'd like to know more about this after we did the podcast, and I've actually given you a book.
You have, yeah.
And you say you like it.
I do, yeah.
It's not the Ladybird Book of the Body either.
No, I thought I'd mention it. Michael Tye, Tye.
Yeah, he's British Texan.
Yeah,
University.
out in Texas, A&M, I think. Out in,
I couldn't tell you more. Like, Texas is a big place.
It's a big place.
Yeah.
Vagueness and the Evolution of Consciousness.
It's the subtitle that drew it to me.
Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah,
and it is really interesting. I mean, he's a proper philosopher. He starts out giving you the paradox of consciousness, and so then he says, it can be stated as follows. 1, consciousness is either sharp or vague. 2, if consciousness is sharp, then it isn't a, brackets broadly, close brackets, physical phenomenon. 3, consciousness is a broadly physical phenomenon. 4, consciousness is vague from 1, 2, and 3. And he goes on like this. And you think, oh God, this is going to be a bit difficult. But then it's clear. And what's interesting, and I was glad you gave me the book, is because it says on the back, because I'd never, I have to say, I talked to a lot of people about consciousness over the years, and I wasn't aware of Michael Tye.
Yeah.
And it says, this is a review written by Philip Goff from Durham University, who I'm afraid I also didn't know.
Uh-huh.
And he says, Michael Ty is one of the most important and influential proponents of physicalism, which is just, consciousness comes from the physical world.
Yeah.
And he says his Damascene conversion to a form of anti-physicalist pan-protopsychism,
Which we talked about in the conscious. Yeah.
is as significant for the world of philosophy as Richard Dawkins becoming a Christian would be for theology.
What a brilliant.
So you think, okay, all right, everyone's going, he's done what?
Yeah, but when you told me that, the interesting thing there is here is somebody in a sort of science academic area that has sort of said, "No, I've made a mistake."
Yeah, no,
We don't get that.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, it's like that old saw about how science advances, which is, I can't remember. I think it might have been Pauly,
Yeah,
the quantum mechanics fellow, who the summary of his position has famously, he said, and this is the summary, not what he actually said, is science advances funeral by funeral. And he's largely right because, today's grumpy old, oh, no, it'd never be like that, was yesterday's firebrand who turned the world upside down. But then a certain proportion of those firebrands, as they get older, remain wedded to the idea which made them so notable and don't want to give it up. And so they do hold back.
it's the house of cards again, isn't it? They hold on to something so much, because all the other beliefs fall apart. I have got a question for you after consciousness.
Sure, I think it'd be nice to talk about that.
Well, no, it's a stupid but and quick fiery one. We ended up sort of. You asked, do I believe whether a mountain has consciousness?
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, it could have. And then you went, yeah, but if you chiseled a bit of stone and made it into a cup, does that cup have and the glaze and yes and it. I've got a question for you. Can you have? I'm waiting for it. A collective consciousness. Or are we in Star Wars or Star Trek territory?
Oh, no, wait a minute. It depends what you mean. If you mean collective consciousness, like I sit here and I go, I feel a vibration in the force. No.
I don't think I mean that.
Well, I mean, you can have a collective consciousness in the sense that you can have what looks like a collective creature, like bees in a hive.
Yeah.
Each bee, it does what it does, but the hive seems in some sense more intelligent, can do more things.
Yes.
And people apply that to humans all the time. I mean, back in what would it be, in the 80s?
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly, do you remember him? Does that name ring a bell?
No, unless
Kevin Kelly was one of the first, I don't know if he was the first, editor of Wired magazine. When Wired was the big thing.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book, which I can't remember the title of, but essentially was saying human beings, culture, collective consciousness, and his interest in it was because he was wildly enthusiastic about the web at the time, which of course seemed like the new vector for a new kind of collective consciousness, which of course in some ways it is.
Yeah.
But whether you go and say, and this collective consciousness is its own creature, thinking its own thoughts, is another step. I mean, the analogy is, if you believe, as most mainstream science does, and I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just saying they're the people who say, look, your consciousness is made up of the firing of all your neurons.
Yes.
Then that means, in some sense, the neuron either has a little tiny piece of consciousness in it, or is at least one of the constituents to make consciousness happen.
Yeah.
But it's you, it's the collective of all of those neurons becomes you.
Yeah.
It's not a chorus of individual neurons going, hello. Or like, if you imagine the neurons, they're not like the crowd at Anfield going, you won.
Yeah.
Each one of them is a separate creature. Is your brain like that? Well, no, because there's a you that goes, no, my name's Ian.
Yeah.
I don't need to introduce you to the 100 billion neurons. See what I mean? Whereas the crowd in Anfield never gets to be more than Tom, Dick and Harry and Sally and Anne who are in the crowd.
Yeah.
It never sort of becomes, hello, my name is Anfield. These are my neurons.
Or does it?
Well, I mean, but there's a lot of chat about that.
Yeah. No, I like that thought.
But I love this. The Michael Ty book is really interesting because he's talking. I mean, I won't go into it too much, but
well, I mean, the thing is, the way you explained it to me was, Ian. Obviously, this is out of your league.
I did not say that. Stop that.
In kind of roundabout way, but it's no, and you're going to write on it, and you're going to put your little notes.
I'm going to scribble all over your book. Yeah, sorry, mate.
But then come back and tell me about it.
Yeah, but it is interesting. The thing which piqued my interest this morning, when you suggested, well, let's do something on books, is that he talks about these. Are there borderline cases, and it made me think of this thing called blind sight.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is a really well-known thing. It's discussed where that's people who, often it's people who've had the split brain experiment, but not always. These are people who are blind.
Yeah, yeah.
They will say, "No, I'm blind, mate. You know, I'm not faking. I'm blind."
Yeah.
And they can't see things. If you say, "What am I holding up?" They go, "I'm blind, mate. Why are you asking me these questions?" But there was a whole set of experiments done because what they would say to people is, "Okay, I know you're blind, but look at this screen. I can't see the screen, mate. I know. I'm going to sit you in front of it. Just humor me. I'm a scientist. Look at the screen."
Yeah.
And then they say, "And we're going to flash dots up on the screen. I can't see the dots, mate. How many times do I have to tell you?"
Yeah.
Never mind. Tell me if you just make a guess if you think there's a dot on the screen and where it might be.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was fascinating is their guesses, not just whether there was a dot, but where it was, were unerringly far more accurate than chance could possibly account for. So what they said is, and there's a lot more research being done, is that they could see their brain, the mechanics of their brain, they could see, but they weren't conscious of having seen it.
Yeah.
Now that's I'd love to write to Michael Tye and ask him about this.
Yeah.
Or it may be that it comes up later in the book. It's a short book, but I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's a fascinating one because the creature, the brain, and the person who's got this brain, their brain registered something, saw the dot, but that information never got to consciousness. They weren't consciously aware of it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so if you expand that and say, well, let's say the same thing happened with hearing or the same thing happened with touch. You were feeling something, but if I asked you, said, no, I'm not. But your body would know. So then you can end up, step by step, creating a creature that looks like me and can see what I'm seeing.
But
the me inside here
is conscious.
I'm deaf, dumb, and blind, mate. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But my body would.
Yeah, weird.
Isn't that weird? I mean, I don't know how far you take it, but they're terribly interesting once you get into this.
What was it? There was another book as well that you were.
Oh no! What I was going to do is we met up with one of the people, with Phil.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
There are lots of Phils in the world, so that's not giving away his identity too much because we haven't actually asked him to mention it. But we had dinner with him the other night because he wanted to, and it came up in conversation, and he asked me about. We were chatting about the Industrial Revolution and the medieval period over dinner, and he asked me about this, and I couldn't remember it. So Phil, this is for you, mate. The book is Medieval Machine, the Industrial Revolution of the Middle Ages. And the author was Jean Gimpel. So Jean, Jean, and Gimpel, Gimpel. So he's a French author. It was written in 1977, and it's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
So there you go for that. It's the book which says that notion, the sort of Monty Python version of the Middle Ages, where they're in the mud. Yeah, we're just peasants. We're in the mud, and we've never seen a machine. And he said, utterly and completely wrong. The medieval period was the Industrial Revolution, and medieval man and woman were very well used to machines, but it's all the water wheel.
Yeah.
And the importance of it is that technology, the water wheel, is the basis of the wealth of Europe and why Europe was then able to build large ships and go out and do what they did. Yeah. So it's a fantastic, and he's such a good historian. So anyway, there you go, Phil.
Brilliant. Good. Well,
all right. Well, I'd like to do this again. Actually, I mean, talk about books sometime again.
Yeah, if you want to, mate.
All right.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, mate.